Good afternoon. Welcome to Good Guys Sports. I'm Jackson Gerke alongside with the two Blakes, Mike Roby, and I'm Jackson Gerke, here on Good Guys Sports. On today's show, we're going to be talking about college basketball and the NBA standings, and then the rankings of college basketball. We'll talk more about that. We'll also deep dive into the latest belief that spring training baseball is already here. But I want to start us off and recap from where we left off from last week, which was the Super Bowl, and 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 what a great finish it was as Kansas City wins back-to-back Super Bowl championships thanks to Patrick Mahomes scoring the game-winning touchdown in the final drive of the game, and then somehow found way Taylor Swift being in the game just somehow just just looked to be their good luck charm.
That was the
Probably turned
difference.
them on the game with Travis Kelsey just so far doing pretty well with their relationship together, and that's where I want to begin. And on the other side of the ball, you flip to the other side. Kyle Shanahan now has lost every single time in the Super Bowl as a head coach slash offensive coordinator. I know where you're going with this. He also lost a Super Bowl in overtime to the Patriots in a 20-3 disaster. And I know, Blake, you and Dad were at that game, and you know what it's like. It was just tough to swallow. You couldn't even do anything. I mean, you and Dad
Why you
got
got to bring that up?
I mean, I know, but you
That
and
was
Dad
years
got
ago.
I know, but you Dad got ticks that game. I was watching it in a hotel in Houston with my mom at that time, and realized hours later, you and Dad walked in the hotel room and just didn't even say a word and just walked in quiet. That's what I remember. That's what I remember about this game. But then you fast forward to this year with the Kansas City Chiefs winning back-to-back Super Bowls. Wow, you couldn't act any better.
Yeah.
Patrick Mahomes could join the same list as Tom Brady and even John Elway, among others, as by far one of the best quarterbacks in that class. So I do believe Kansas City is on to something that they're trying to accomplish, which no other team has done, which by the way, no other NFL team has done it. That is a three-peat.
Yeah.
We will get to other Super Bowl stuff to digest to dive into, but Mike, Blake, the two Blakes, talk to me. Just
Start off with one word there, Jack. Corn dog. The corn dog play. If you look back, Kansas City ran that for 2 touchdowns against the Eagles in last year's Super Bowl.
Mhm.
They called it the last play of the game. Man, they just faked out the 49ers. But you got to get hats off to the 49ers. Purdy had a great game, and the 49ers defense stuffed the Chiefs in the regular game. They only allowed 1 touchdown, and that 1 touchdown was right after a recovered fumble on a punt. And the rest of the time in the red zone, the 49ers snuffed the Chiefs. The Chiefs fumbled once inside the 10-yard line. So, you got to hand it to the 49ers defense. But I decided not to vote against Mahomes this time. Three what I would have been Same here. unlucky
Hmm.
to do that. But I think I called it that. At least I had the point spread right. I think I called it was 24-21, and the score ended up being 25-22.
Wow.
Because of overtime as well, right? The extra points there, yeah. Yeah, and the 2 field goal kickers, that missed extra point, came back and that would, I'm not saying that was the difference, but it's a lot easier to kick a field goal to tie the game than to have to get a touchdown. If that extra point had been made, it would have been 49ers would have been 4 points up.
Yeah, I
instead
mean,
of just
certainly in
3.
a game like that was so tight, like the smallest margins end up making the difference, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, gosh, yeah, I mean, two teams like that are so both great teams, and like you said, compliments to the 49ers, but yeah, ultimately it just seems like they have trouble getting over the finish line. And you wouldn't say they played a particularly bad first half, but maybe you can say how well they played in the first half.
Mhm.
Put against how poor Kansas City is, you could say maybe they didn't build up enough of a lead in the first half, whereas Mahomes was able to come back in the second half. It kind of seems like the recipe to beat Mahomes is just get up on a huge lead in the first half and not give him the chance. If you give him the chance, like we saw in the game, he's gonna take it. So,
Mhm. Yeah. And Chris Jones, maybe he should have been the unofficial MVP of the game.
yeah, I think the Kansas City defense kind of went. I mean, I don't want to say it went under the radar. I think people knew how good their defense was, but obviously there's so much attention paid to Mahomes and Kelsey that defensive unit for Kansas City really made a difference throughout the season and in that game as well.
Yeah, I mean, he pressured Purdy to throw the ball away, and that's what caused him to kick the field goal in overtime.
Yeah, exactly. And I think a lot of people had after the game were saying that we're actually praising Brock Purdy's performance. He had a pretty good game. Like I don't think you can really throw any criticism or point the loss to him. Maybe you can argue that he didn't win the game like Mahomes did, but in terms of like making mistakes and stuff like that, and he didn't really do any of that. He kept his team in the game ultimately. But Jack mentioned Kyle Shanahan. I think he's kind of really the guy that's taking most of the blame up there in the Bay Area. Given the big talking point was in overtime how he deferred the or he took the he let Kansas City take the ball first, right, in overtime.
No, 49ers.
So he
Yeah.
didn't take the sorry, I got that mixed up. So he didn't take so basically the rationale being if you have the ball first, then you basically put the pressure on the other team, right? So if you put yourself in that kind of position and then what happens, then ultimately you're going to come under criticism for not going the other way, you know?
Yeah.
Like maybe he forgot the rule changed. He probably just slipped his mind that the overtime rule had changed.
Well, you know, a lot of the players did say on the 49ers side that they weren't aware of the overtime rules where the other team gets the ball no matter what kind of thing.
Wow.
So essentially by taking the ball first and not scoring, you're essentially giving I guess the main argument is that you're essentially giving Kansas City four downs, because if you score a touchdown, Kansas City they're going to take 4 downs every time, and you're giving Mahomes an extra down basically. Whereas if you give them the ball first and they get a field goal, then obviously you know what you have to do. So going second mathematically in the overtime rules, and we see this in college football as well. The NFL, I'm not really sure why the NFL did it the previous way, where you could just score and win, which is the reason they changed it was because of that playoff game a couple of years back with the Bills and Chiefs, where Josh Allen never even got a chance to hold the ball, and the Chiefs ended up advancing. So the NFL changed the rules, and so I can understand why there's confusion about the rules, because they are new, where it wasn't the case previously, where both teams got a chance to have the ball. But yeah, I mean, in that situation, you know, the math would tell you that going second has the advantage because you know what you have to do. Therefore, you can adjust your offensive play calls based off of that. So is it harsh to criticize Shanahan for that, for taking the ball first? Possibly, but like I said earlier, in these big games, it's the smallest margins that make a difference, right?
Yeah, that game was so close that I don't think you can criticize harshly anybody associated with that game. If you think back, the 49ers drive in overtime was saved by a defensive holding call, because there was third and several yards to go, and Purdy threw an incomplete pass because it got blocked down. But prior to the pass being thrown, there was a holding call, which automatic first down, and that saved their drive. And then in the Chiefs drive, there was a fourth down play that if the 49ers had stopped them, and they had stuffed the Chiefs earlier in regulation time twice on fourth down plays. They just couldn't do it a third time. Mahomes ran the ball and got that first down. So the game was that close. And I picked on a little bit on the Moody, the 49ers kicker, but he kicked three field goals. One was 55 yards, another one was 53 yards to take the lead in the late fourth quarter. So somebody kicking 55,
you can't really blame him, right?
Yeah,
I think that's just kind of the way that the media narrative works nowadays, is that you kind of have to play the blame game with somebody after a Super Bowl defeat. And like you said, I think it is harsh. I think these teams were very close. But I think Purdy played a relatively clean game. The kicker played a pretty clean game. So ultimately Shanahan's kind of going to be the one holding the blame at the end of the day,
Yeah. I mean, and that muffed punt really wasn't the return guy. It accidentally hit the leg of another 49er, and he was trying to recover the ball. But the very next play is when Mahomes, threw his touchdown pass, which was the smart thing to do. I mean, within seconds, the game changes like that. But it lived up to the hype. I mean, it was quite a game.
Yeah, it definitely got off to a slow start, but once second half going and into overtime, it became a very entertaining game. And at the end of the day, Mahomes and Chiefs worthy winners, in my opinion, right, Jack?
Yeah,
that's right. They are by far one of the best football players in modern generation, probably in all time, other than Tom Brady being the next, like I said. And to recap with the Super Bowl, I think Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce and Isaiah Pacheco had a great game in the Super Bowl. So along with the game winning rookie player that the Chiefs for his target, that for his game winning drive that they went into. So I do feel like the Chiefs just knew that the Chiefs were the better team. And as we always know, with how Andy Reid plays it in those games, with the Chiefs and Andy Reid, of how they always find ways to come from behind. They always find ways, especially when they're having the up and down kind of season, whether they're just having not the good times, but the great times, when they're just that kind of season that they always have, with the up and down kind of season they always have in the game. And of course the Chiefs know how to rally from 10 points down. So there's that stat for you. And I feel like they know how to, and I feel like the Chiefs know how to win from behind, because they know they've done it before. And I'm pretty sure this all applies to pretty much teams in the NFL, but the Chiefs way of doing it, it's their formula. And I think they always find their culture of like just rallying behind and just believing your team. And that's especially Taylor Swift. And I just think that's how this team really just
especially to the
really got how they really got their momentum back and just got back in this thing and just that's how this team just never just showed up, just shows to never quit, just came from behind and just still found a way to win. Thanks in large part of the team just not giving up.
So Jack, you said that I wanted just a little history. There was a team that came close to a three-peat. That would have been the 65, 66, and 67 Green Bay Packers. It's just in 65, there was no Super Bowl.
Really?
And they ended up winning the first 2 Super Bowls. But when they went to that second Super Bowl, they had three-peated. They were the very first team to three-peat in the NFL championship.
That was before our time.
Yeah.
I would have thought the Patriots did a three-peat, or they came close to a three-peat.
Yeah.
At some
then
point,
after the Packers won the second Super Bowl, Lombardi retired from coaching, and he stepped down for 1 year, and then he became the coach of the Washington football team. Anyway,
interesting little piece of history there, Jack.
yeah.
All right. Let's just hold that thought because we have our next guest joining us. He is Roberto, and he is my best friend that he works with with the company that we live in together in Raleigh. So Roberto, thanks for being with us. Thank you for being with us on our show. It's great to have you. Always great to have you. You know Blake, but you see him all the time at work. Whenever you talk with him on and off from the company. You guys hang out together when you're in or out of the office together. But I want to introduce to you that we are all in North Carolina, but I want you to meet our next guest. His name is Uncle Mike, known as Mike Roby, and so welcome Mike Roby. So I won't give you too much, but what you know about him. So we're all in North Carolina. Well, he's not. He currently lives right outside of our nation's capital, and that's where he currently resides right now.
Proudly representing.
Roberto, it's great to be with you. Great to have you on Good Guy Sports.
Thank you, Jackson. No, I appreciate the invite. This day has been, coming in for a while, and got the invitation from you and from Blake, and very happy to be here to discuss the best topic there is out there, right? Sports. So with 3 other good guys, Mike, pleasure to meet you.
Nice meeting you, Roberto.
And
yeah, we should. You want to move on to some college hoops now that Roberto's here, right, Jack?
That's right, and I just want to make sure we got Blake Lumberger out still with us. We have
Zach.
Yep, we have our first guest on, so feel free to join. Feel free to join the conversation as we move on to our next topic, and that is college basketball. And I don't know if you heard, but UConn #1 goes down as UConn gets upset by Creighton. This is by far #1. This could shake up the rankings and in all college basketball, but so far UConn, who plays in the Big East, plays in the same conference as Villanova does, they go down to Creighton, and that is just some excitement for those fans. I mean, those fans are living in the moment. They stormed the court in Omaha for those fans out there, and now all of a sudden there could be a little bit of a shakeup. Maybe Purdue jumps #1. I want to say Arizona right now. As far as our team goes, Duke. So their next game is against Wake Forest, which I believe is on Saturday afternoon. So I feel like
big one.
Yes, I feel like Duke should probably have an advantage for them, but I I don't. We'll see about that, but
Jackson, I wanted to ask Roberto because
right.
we talked about the game against UNC a few weeks ago and how disappointing that was. But I will say Duke has bounced back really nicely with 5 straight wins on the bounce, and we know that's not easy to do in the ACC. A pretty comprehensive victory against Miami last night. So I think they're tied with UNC, top of the ACC right now. So do you think they can win the conference and possibly even get up to a #1 seed in the NCAA tournament? Is that possible?
I think the sky is the limit, but I think a 1 seed is a little too ambitious there.
You think so?
I think a 2 seed is doable. This stretch, this game against Wake Forest is very important. It was a three straight away games. We had, what was it? We had Miami last night. We have Wake next week or this Saturday, as Jackson said, and we had Florida State.
Yeah.
So 3 tough away matches, as you said, 5 straight wins. So who knows? I think the March 9th, rematch against UNC is going to be a big one. But I was surprised earlier this week when I saw that we were above UNC in the rankings. They're number 10 now.
Yeah, because tied overall to both 12-3 in the conference. So
yeah. So it's interesting. It could really go anywhere. I think UNC got beat by, was it Clemson last week as well, which was a big upset.
That definitely helped Duke's case for sure. Yeah.
Exactly. So, yeah. So that it's exciting. The ACC is always an exciting little conference, and it always produces 2 or 3 good tournament teams. So we'll see.
Definitely. Yeah, you don't want to overlook the games before that last game with Duke UNC as well, because like you said, there's a lot of good teams, Virginia, et cetera.
And that matchup will be at Duke, will it not?
Yeah. That'll be the last regular season conference game at Cameron. Yeah, and you would imagine that will kind of be, if things go according to plan, that will be for the regular season ACC record as well. Obviously you have conference tournament and stuff like that, but there are a lot of teams. If you look at just the overall rankings, there are a lot of teams in that 5-6 loss range. So like I would still expect, despite the loss that Jackson mentioned for UConn to Creighton, they would still probably get a 1 seed in the tournament. Probably Houston, Purdue, Arizona, kind of in that range as well. But I don't know. I would consider maybe if certain results go a certain way, the best team in the ACC might get a #1 seed in the tournament, which is obviously a huge advantage. But I think regardless, either way, Duke and UNC, just based off of they're both good this year and they're both good historically, should be given a favorable seed come March, I would expect anyway.
Yeah, and I think that the ACC tournament that you alluded to will also play a big role, which, by the way, is in Washington, D.C. this year.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, so if I believe last year it was in Greensboro. This year it's going to be in Washington, D.C. I think they're coming back to Greensboro in 2025.
Yeah, I thought it was a rotation between Greensboro and MSG, but is a DC location new for the ACC?
I'm not sure.
They
Mike, are you aware?
No, Roberto, they played tournament games. They played tournament games there before.
Yeah.
Okay.
And they've played regional in the NCAA. I mean, in 2006, it was the regional finals was in Washington, D.C. I just remember because my alma mater, George Mason, beat
I was going to ask. Yeah. So that was the year that Mason made it to the Final Four.
Yeah.
Then. Okay, interesting.
And a shout out to the Patriots, who beat number 16 Dayton 71-67 at home a couple nights ago.
That's a good win.
Were they not flying, Mike? They must not have been flying that game.
Yeah, they were
grounded.
Yeah, they played at the Patriot Center at George Mason, and their head coach Tony Skinn what played on the 2016.
Oh, nice.
So
Nice.
there's some connections there.
Connective, yeah, history
Yeah.
there for sure. Yeah.
So,
So are they in with the shout for the tournament then, you think, or the
oh, I doubt
Patriots?
it.
No?
You know, being the size of school that they are, they would have to, they definitely would have to win their conference tournament
Yeah, yeah.
to get it in, to get an invite.
Yeah,
And,
that's the thing about the tournament that I do like those smaller conferences as well. You kind of get that like flyer to make the tournament just by winning your conference tournament. So I do like that that part of the NCAA selection process, where it definitely keeps things a bit more open and stuff like
Yeah.
that. So
you got to be able to bust everybody's bracket.
absolutely, yeah, absolutely.
Bracket before the bracket, right? It's like, yeah, it's a whole. I really like it when, as Blake was saying, you know, the smaller conferences. Um, I guess outside of the Power Five, just you have a team that comes up and then makes a big run in the tournament, and it's really exciting to see.
Yeah, and just to talk a little bit more about Duke specifically, because we have, obviously there were a couple Duke fans here and stuff like that. I was watching the game last night against Miami, and Filipowski was basically getting whatever he wanted against that Miami defense. So do you think I was going to ask Roberto if you think he's got the experience and some tournament experience, conference. Do you think like having somebody like him, kind of a big guy at the paint that you can kind of just play through and feed the ball in a crunch situation, that's going to kind of be the difference for Duke? I know you can argue UNC kind of has that with what's the
6-year player Baycott.
yeah, it's kind of cheating in my opinion, but yeah, that's a
I
different discussion.
agree.
But I mean, Filipowski should be a weapon come March, right?
Hopefully, this whole season they've been saying they have the chip in the shoulder from the way we went out the tournament last year against Tennessee. Um, I do think that the team was, you know, hadn't meshed well up until these last 5 games. It seems like the 5-game winning streak is a testament to them having, you know, picked back up again after that UNC loss. So hopefully we can keep that momentum going. And I think, you know, having second-year players like Filipowski, Mark Mitchell, fourth-year player like Roach, second-year player like Proctor as well, and also, you know, strong freshmen like McCain and Foster can be very helpful. Come March, it's gonna be interesting. So
Yeah, Roach is somebody that I've been pretty impressed with as well. He had a good game last night. I think it's 16, but it seems like they got a pretty well-rounded team, which I know in the like some of the past Coach K teams were like centered around oh sorry, hang on. Some of the like prior Coach K teams were really centered around like one or two huge stars. Obviously you got someone like a Zion or a Banchero who and maybe in that system as well, they weren't really able to show like the full kind of player that they were. But I think what Shire has this year is a really good group of guys, not like the one star freshman. Maybe that will come next year in the form of Cooper Flag. But for right now, they've got a lot of, I mean, experience in college basketball nowadays, which just means like having people who aren't freshmen, right? Because nowadays, if you're like the top tier freshman, just leave after a year. But
one and done.
exactly, yeah. So I think he's got a pretty well balanced team. Coach Shire does. But obviously, like I said, UNC can kind of say the same thing as well with getting that experience in. So wouldn't shock me if we have a similar situation that we had a couple of years ago, where those two teams end up meeting in late in the tournament, or both teams make good runs in the tournament, because they do seem like two of the better teams in the country, in my opinion.
No, I agree. I mean, you can never. It's always a good thing to wish for a Duke UNC matchup in the tournament. I think it's. I don't know if it had ever happened before the 2020 before the 2022 Final Four. Let's do some digging.
I don't think they've met in the tournament, and the fact that it was in the Final Four as well just made it even more crazy, to be honest, like you said. So,
I
but
would
yeah,
think
I mean,
the issue is they're always top seeds, both schools.
Yeah.
So they're not going to meet unless
right,
it's
it'd be later in the tournament. Yeah.
the Sweet 16 or the Elite Eight. They're not going to meet.
Yeah, I think
They're not
in
going to
the
meet before then.
in the latest projections, maybe they were both 2 seeds.
Yeah.
But I do think that there'll be some results that might end up changing that. So definitely something to keep an eye on the rankings for sure. And definitely the conference strength of conference definitely does play into that. Like the people that make the rankings can say that it doesn't, but if you're playing in a conference like the ACC or the Big Ten or whatever that has a lot of, and I mean, no offense to UConn, but like the Big East is not what the Big East used to be. Obviously you got like a Creighton who they lost to, but it's not exactly like your granddad's Big East with like Patrick Ewing at Georgetown and all that, so is a 24-2 might be a little bit inflated in my opinion. Similar with Houston and the I don't know, they're in the American Athletic, I think. They got the odd game against Memphis. That's a difficult one, but I do think, and obviously the conferences nowadays in college basketball and football is kind of a bit up in the air regardless, but I still think it does matter playing against consistently good opponents, which definitely happens in the ACC. So I wouldn't rule that out influencing the rankings come March.
Called strength of schedule.
There you go. You hear that a lot in the college football rankings, right, Jack? But I think it applies to basketball too, no?
Absolutely. It sure does, Blake. And the one other thing I want to touch into is that we look at the first 4 buys and last 4 in and first 4 out and next 4 out. Those teams include New Mexico, Nebraska, Texas A&M, Nevada. The next 4 in are Butler, Gonzaga, Seton Hall, Ole Miss. We look at the first 4 out teams. Those are Providence, Utah, Cincinnati, Wake Forest, and finally in the next 4 out we have Colorado, Villanova, St. John's, and Pittsburgh. Who Villanova, which we all know that one of those teams that had a great run under Jay Wright, no longer the coach there, of winning multiple national championships there as a head coach. Now looks like they're in danger of not making the are in the of on the outside, not making the NCAA tournament this year. So I got to ask Roberto this question. So is it that Villanova is a very young team, they don't have their coaching more, or is there, or is it, or are they rebuilding, or anything that's in this transition, or are they just is it all about the transfer portal with their players, or with new players just getting just banged up with injuries, or just having a slow start, or just not a great, just a very young team, and not just they're not great on both sides on the ball, or are they just a young roster of group of guys on this team? You tell me. Your brother goes to school there. What is the weakness for the Villanova Wildcats?
Yeah, that's a great question, Jackson. I wish I was better equipped to answer it, but what I will say is I think you touched on it really well. It's a team that's rebuilding under a new head coach, right? Kyle Neptune, his second year at the helm after having to fill some massive shoes, as you said.
Tough to replace him, right? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yes,
Mhm.
yes, pretty much analogous to Shire and Coach
Klopp.
K. Klopp.
Yeah, having to fill the shoes of a legend is tough, isn't it?
Yeah, well, but Klopp is still strong in Liverpool, so no, but I think last year they got banged up with injuries big time, right? Then they ended up in the NIT. This year I haven't followed it much, but I can see like some of the matchups that they had were, really close. I mean, they lost to UConn by 1 point a month ago. They lost to Marquette, was number 7 at the time, by 5 points. Less than a month ago. They lost to Xavier by 3 points a couple of weeks ago. And right now they're in a 3-game winning streak, which is good momentum for them. But it's a tough conference up there as well. And I think that the coaching change also, plays a role in how the team is perceived from the fans or from the outside. So it'll be very interesting to see. I think the next up is UConn also on Saturday. So at UConn, so that'll be a tough one because the one that they lost by 1 point was at Villanova. My brother was actually at that game. But yeah, Saturday at 8 p.m. Eastern. Tune in. Villanova, UConn. Maybe Villanova will be able to pull the upset.
Yeah, and you would think the committee would give them preference, just given historical, they're a recent champion and stuff versus like a New Mexico or something, for example, if they have to. I mean, they could say that like it's like a mathematical equation that like print the schedule and like best victories and worst losses, but like if it comes down to like sliding in a New Mexico or a Villanova into the tournament, I mean, we kind of know what's gonna happen, right? So
you would hope. I mean, look at what happened in football earlier this year with Florida State.
well, yeah, and they've totally changed that system as well, probably because of that. So, but the NCAA basketball tournaments, I mean, if you have 64 or 68 teams now, like, can you really complain about not getting in if you're not one of the 68 best teams in the country? There's definitely less room to cry about that versus like a 12
Yeah,
a 12 team football playoff. So
yeah, let alone
it's like we're the
4.
71st best team in the country. I was like, no one's really gonna pay too much attention to that complaint. So
Yeah, I agree, and I think to the earlier point of strength of schedule, you look at the first 4 out. Yes, they're the first 4 out, as you said, probably the 72nd strongest team in the nation. But you have Wake Forest there, which Duke is playing this weekend, right? And then you have Pitt, which is another ACC team, right? So yeah, I mean, it's tough out there, and I think there's a bracket here that I'm seeing. Let's see where they project. They have Duke as a 3 seed right now. So UConn, Arizona, Houston, and Purdue as the 1 seeds.
yeah, I think that probably makes sense, but I have if you either one of UNC or Duke, unless they both like lose a game before they play each other on March 9th, I have a hard time believing one of them won't get at least a 2 seed, probably a 1 seed, maybe like the 4th best 1 seed. If they, and then obviously it's hard to know how much importance the conference tournament plays. I mean, the conference tournaments probably are more important for the smaller conferences because obviously you get an automatic bid if you win it and stuff like that. But some of the teams that are kind of on the bubble, like you mentioned, in the SEC, Big Ten, ACC, etc., they can kind of like help their cause in making a run to the semifinals of ACC tournament or like SEC tournament or something like that. So definitely keep an eye on the tournaments for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, it's exciting that that starts in like 3 weeks, maybe.
The main tournament, you mean, or the conference tournaments?
The conference tournaments, I think. Let's see.
Yeah, I think it's not too far away, is it? That's what it's kind of. It's I think it's the 12th to the 16th of March in DC. The ACC one is, so
Yeah.
it definitely come like the ACC kind of ends with the big UNC Duke, and then they might end up playing each other in a tournament. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see. Yeah, I think definitely think those 2 teams will be heard from come late March, early April. It's not a huge prediction, obviously, because they're UNC and Duke. They're both good teams this year, but I think unlike last year, they have experience. Both teams have experience, so yeah.
Yeah, in case you're wondering, Roberto, this year's big the Big East tournaments, the Big East tournament's going to be returning to its usual place to its usual home as it always does in Madison Square Garden. So, but we'll get to
Oh,
that. Yeah, but we'll get to that a little later. But right now, though, we're going to be talking about some baseball, one of your other favorite sports to talk about. So right now, also Uncle Mike's favorite sport that he follows. So right now,
Spring training, first game
training
was today,
already
right?
underway, and
We play Saturday is our first game.
you're going to be playing the Astros.
Yep.
And I believe
They're
they're
probably
going
going
to
to
be
cheat in
playing
spring training too, aren't they?
yeah. Where are the garbage cans?
They can't help themselves. They're going to cheat in spring training as well. They just can't help themselves.
and the first game of the official start of this baseball season is that the Dodgers are up 14-1 against the Padres, who I feel like aren't doing anything. But hey, it's only spring training. Things can happen in the regular season, and even October. But you look at this Dodgers team; they are stacked with talent. They got Shohei Ohtani, which we all know they have. And then they signed all their other big free players on the free agency too. So behind only the Braves, the Dodgers are by far the team to beat in the world in October. So got to tell you, if any of you were ever to travel a baseball game that's against Dodgers, you're going to be seeing a bunch of Ohtani jerseys everywhere in the stands. So that's something to really keep your eye
And
on
they-
if you see them.
And they got the that pitcher from Japan. So Dodgers going to be they're going to be tough.
Jack, I wanna ask Uncle Mike, since he's the biggest Nationals fan that I know, what are his expectations for the season? Do you want to see improvement from young players, or do you realistically think you can sneak into the wild card? I'm just curious what the expectations are.
My expectation would be to break even 81 and 81.
Okay.
So
you don't want to
realistically
you don't
speaking.
want to get like a top draft pick. You want to see improvement from the young players and not
Yeah.
necessarily be like the worst team in the NL or
Well, I
something
want to
like
see
that,
I
right?
want to see I want to see a good team. They were playing pretty well. Last August was probably their best month. But I'd like to see a good product on a lot of youngins. That's as far as laying, I don't want to see them laying down and just go for a big draft pick. It's going to be
Yeah.
interesting. We got a couple good prospects coming up. Unfortunately,
Who should we keep an eye out for this year?
well, Dylan Cruz for one.
Okay.
But we also got another guy, Wood, who's coming up. He was in Double-A last year. 6'7",
Ooh, wow.
21-year-old. And then our shortstop, CJ Abrams. I think he's going to have a breakout season. And he should be fun to watch. I mean, he was good last year, and he ended up stealing a lot of bases. He's not gonna steal as many as Acuna, but he's gonna be good. And then Lane Thomas in right field. He should have been an all-star last year, but I think he's gonna come along. But it's gonna be fun. Yeah. As long as we beat the Phillies, we'll be good.
There you go. Yeah, I think from a Braves fan expectations as well, it's kind of, we obviously had best record in the league last year, and obviously we ran into a bit of a wall in the playoffs, but made a couple moves.
Well, you got
Couple
Chris Sale. You got Chris Sale.
Yeah, so
Hopefully
that's
for you guys, he actually has a healthy year.
yeah, so that's going to be the big question mark, I think, is how much production we're going to be getting out of him. And I guess you can say it's a bit of a flyer because he's not going to be our first or second starter, maybe not even our third. He's kind of going to be in that second tier starter. So you can say that it's not a huge gamble on our part, but I think it's a swing. It's big upside, right? Like there's obviously with his injury track record, and he's not been the most reliable player, but when he does play, he's been a difference maker. So that definitely seems like a pickup that with an eye towards the playoffs, where I remember the postseason in 2018 for Boston, I think, where he closed out the World Series, and he kind of came in with spot starts and stuff like that. So he's got playoff experience. So I think that was kind of the main goal of that acquisition of Sale, is kind of maybe not totally ride him in the regular season, but keep him ready for a potential big playoff series and having the difference. And then as well, a couple acquisitions. We picked up a Kalenic from the Mariners as well in a trade, who will probably get some good playing time in the outfield, maybe a couple at bats, DH and stuff like that. So
how's your bullpen?
Yeah, I mean the bullpen, I think Minter is still going to be kind of the prize in the bullpen, and then Iglesias will probably still be the closer. But I think the bullpen is going to be the most malleable part of the team, and that's most of the best teams is that bullpen is kind of where they end up making changes throughout the season and plugging and playing and stuff like that. So I think that is going to be the part of the team that probably looks different this time 6 months from now than it does right now, and they're going to give guys a chance and stuff like that. But I think Minter is the best, is the number one reliever, and then Iglesias will be the closer. But then in that 7th, 8th inning spot will be kind of where they experiment a little bit. But in terms of the lineup, I think it's one of the strongest, if not the strongest. I guess the Dodgers, maybe after the acquisitions they made this season, can argue against that. But I think having Acuna coming off the season that he did is just going to be such a weapon. So yeah, I think it's going to be another strong year from the Braves.
Yeah, I think the NL East will end up being Braves, Phillies, Marlins, hopefully the Nationals, Mets. But it's probably.
I think there's any chance of a Phillies kind of like let off year after their playoff run last year, or if they got too much power, you think?
Yeah, I mean the watch the Phillies when they play the Brewers, because Hoskins is going to be playing with the Brewers.
Right.
And I think he's gonna want to have some revenge against the Phillies.
Yeah, he was an important player for them. So
yeah, and now you got Bryce at first base for the Phillies now.
Right.
And
so I don't know. I would look out for them as a potential like underachiever this year. Maybe I'm just saying that because I dislike Bryce Harper so much, but they seem like a team that maybe might take a step back.
They might. I think it's depending on what Schwab does.
Yeah.
I mean, he can hit the ball out of the park.
Yeah.
But do you really want your leadoff guy hitting below 200?
That's the modern game, I suppose, Mike, huh?
I mean, I don't know. I like small ball.
There's no more bunting and stealing going on apart from Acuna.
You're one of those average baseball fans that like to go small and not big. I get it. But I do want to ask
Mike likes
Roberto,
small ball. He's a college baseball guy.
Hey,
nothing wrong with that, Blake.
Fundamentals.
But I do want to ask Roberto this question in regard to baseball. So, you can feel and you can jump this conversation if you want to, Mike. But I do want to ask Roberto that the Yankees have signed Juan Soto from the Padres, who previously played for the Nationals before that on a 1-year contract, and it's not a big deal like it's not a big deal of guaranteed money like Shohei Ohtani or Bryce Harper or players like that make that much money. It's not a great deal because if he opts out after this upcoming season, then there's gonna be question marks of him being traded, and also Aaron Judge has got to stay healthy throughout the entire season in order to make a deep postseason run, which they haven't been able to for the last 20 something years or so. So I got to ask you about the New York Yankees for this upcoming season. Do they need to get their weakness and pieces and stuff addressed for this team and regarding with their rotation and their starting pitching and that they got to get addressed? I mean, Aaron Boone or whoever's running this, who's ever running this this organization has got to get things right up in the Bronx. So Roberto, what say you about the New York Yankees upcoming season?
That's a great question. I hate to admit it, I don't know much about baseball.
Well, you're our guy, so
I'm the what?
I said you're our guy. I mean,
I'm trying to do some research here. So it looks like he played with the Padres before, right? Juan
Yes.
Soto?
Yeah, so he
Nationals
was-
traded him to the Padres, and then the
Okay.
Padres dumped him to relieve some cash pressure to the Yankees.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it will be a bit of a make or break year for the Yankees. They're obviously taking a bit of a gamble. They traded for Soto and then signed him to like a 1-year deal kind of thing. So they had a pretty terrible year last year, all things considered. So
Yeah.
some of the moves they make, it's going to be, I think this is kind of the last year for the manager as well. I think if they don't have success this year with the current team, then I'm surprised they haven't already just kind of like gotten rid of everybody and made changes, right?
I think the AL East lands in Baltimore still.
Yeah, I can't disagree with that, to be honest.
I think if Kimbrel has a good year coming out of the bullpen, he'll be the closer for Baltimore. And Baltimore's got a guy named Holiday that's going to be their new shortstop, probably. He's the son of Holiday that pitched for the Phillies, by the way. He's coming up.
Mike,
So
got
they
a quick baseball question for you.
Yeah.
So I talked to one of my guys that plays baseball today, one of my students, and he said there's 40 guys. I said, you got how many people on that team? He said 40. I said, what's the breakdown? He said 20 pitchers, 20 fielders. I knew teams had a lot of pitchers, but man, I didn't know it was half and half. Is that about right? Is that par for the course for the MLB as well?
It's pretty close. I mean, they're not all going to have, but they're going to have a significant number of pitchers versus regular guys on the 40-man roster. Now, remember the active roster is only 26. But of those 26, each team's going to carry 5 starters, and they're probably going to have 8 in the bullpen. So right there, that's half of pitchers, and the half are combination of infielders and outfielders. Each team's going to carry 2 catchers. Some teams will carry a third catcher, and then the rest are. And then in the modern game, even the National League, each team's going to have somebody's going to be a DH. Now that DH can also be a fielder as well. But yeah, I mean, getting back to long-winded answer to your question, yeah, about half of your roster is going to be pitchers.
That's fascinating. That's amazing.
And you're going to have stack your farm system with arms, particularly your AAA and your AA teams, because those 5 starters, each team in the major leagues are probably going to have, 10 at least 10 guys starting a game sometime in the throughout the season. Because arms go bad. And each team has to have, their 6th and 7th starters ready to go in the minors.
And also the Orioles have traded for Joey Ortiz to get Corey Burns. So to your point on the Orioles, Mike, I do think this is a team you should really pay attention to because if you were a Yankees and Red Sox fan or possibly the Blue Jays or Rays, you just got to be aware of those birds and those bird bath at Camden Yards and all that stuff. You just got to be, no matter if they're playing on the road or at home, you just gotta get you just have to deal with the Orioles every time and just those Orioles just Mike, just like you said, are just going to be the team to beat, like everybody said. So
Yeah.
there's that.
Yeah. Birdland.
There's always at least one surprise every year, and Baltimore certainly was that last year, right,
Mhm.
Mike? So
Yeah.
do we think there's any chance of like a shock, maybe a shock team winning their division this year? Because like you said you thought you don't see any potential of like a Baltimore kind of like taking a regression this year, given how, I mean, they have a young team, right? So you would think
Yeah.
they're kind of going on the upward slide, right?
I think so. I guess if I was going to go out on a limb and pick a shocker, I would land in Milwaukee.
Yeah, I was gonna
The
ask you,
Brewers.
you think Chicago has any chance to win that division this year, or you think it's Milwaukee's got a better team?
I think
Chicago's made a couple moves, right?
yeah. I don't think anybody's picked up Bellinger yet.
Well, yeah, that's kind of the question mark over them
Yeah.
right now is the Bellinger. Yeah.
If the Cubbies can keep Bellinger, then I think they got a shot.
I haven't heard Mike talk about my Rays yet.
Yeah.
They're looking for a bounce back year. They had a pretty disappointing end to the season.
Yeah, you're right. Great start, disappointing end.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
the Rays are always there or thereabouts, right? So I would expect them come late in the season to be fighting for that division and definitely a wild card spot.
Yeah,
as
I
well.
think the Yankees and the Red Sox they're going to have to rebuild because I don't.
No, I agree.
see
I
them-
think if the Yankees and Red Sox think that they can just spend their way out of kind of the issues
Yeah.
they have, I think they're going to be in for a rude awakening. And I would expect Baltimore and Tampa and probably even Toronto, to be honest, to be better teams than Yankees and Red Sox this year. So
Yeah.
I think that's kind of a trend that we're going to see next year and going forward as well. Is these teams might have big payrolls like the Yankees and Red Sox, but some of these smarter teams like Tampa and Baltimore that kind of build through the farm system and make these smart acquisitions, they're going to have success. So I would expect that to continue this upcoming season as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, their
Triple
only
A
player.
affiliate. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Jackson.
Yeah, so I was going to say, their only player for the Red Sox who's on the team that I can only name is Rafael Devers. That's it. Other than Chris Sale, but other than that, it's just a bunch of just a bunch of rookies and just a bunch of players that are not named stars and has never unheard before. So that's just what I wanted to just follow up with on what you guys are referring to for this topic.
Well, Jackson, I wish we had somebody on the inside on the farm teams with the Yankees. It would just make this so much easier. But I just can't think of anybody. I wish we just had somebody that worked for the Tampa Yankees that we could call about this stuff.
Well, me and my brother used to work there, and we know what it's like. I mean, we spent in those dog days of summer down there working together.
Very warm.
As great coworkers together with our boss, Miss Jessica, and I think that she by far was the best boss that I've ever had working in what was one of the best farm systems probably in all of baseball.
Yeah, I'm sure they've got some good prospects down there in Tampa Yankees, Blake. But to be honest, they might not be better than the team also in Tampa, and that's the Tampa Bay Rays, because they've certainly seemed like they have the best prospects in MLB. So I think the Yankees are kind of trying to catch up to the Rays in terms of draft moves and acquisitions and stuff like that. So we'll see.
Go
So-
Durham Bulls.
Right.
Exactly. There's our local Durham Bulls here, the AAA
The
affiliate of the
That's
Tampa
what I was
Bay.
gonna say. Yeah.
Yeah. Me and Roberto went to a game recently, and we saw the superstar Wander Franco for the Rays. Right now, we saw him playing in Durham, so
Yeah.
I'm sure that pipeline is still overflowing. I'm sure with
Yeah.
good talent.
I had heard the Panda has signed a minor league deal with the Giants.
Ooh, Pablo Sandoval?
Yep.
Is he?
He's
I mean,
gonna
he
try.
must be
He's trying
really
to make
old now.
he's trying to make a comeback with the Giants.
Mike, I thought you were
Wow.
talking about the two pandas coming from China that we just got announced that are going to be headed this way as well. The two great pandas
No.
coming
To
back.
be,
Yeah.
to be
they're
honest,
coming-
I think the two pandas from China might be able to hit a better batting average than Pablo Sandoval right
Yeah.
now. But that's, you know what? That's good for him, man. Good for him.
Hey, I think they're doing it just for the fan base, which
Yeah.
is fine.
Yeah, I remember he had a cup of coffee with the Braves a few years ago, and he was just kind of there for the vibes, I think. But fair enough.
All right, Jack. Hey,
All right.
you wanna
Well,
wrap us up?
before we, that's great to be with you guys. But before I wrap up our show, I do want to real quick, even though we're out of time, but I just wanted to say real quick before we get ourselves out of here that I want to get this one last thing in before we call ourselves today, is that the 2026 FIFA World Cup final is going to be in MetLife Stadium in New York. I don't know if you guys heard, but that's where it's going to be. And then the first tournament is going to be and then the first day
match.
of tournament is going to be out in LA.
Opening
So
game.
yeah, that's right.
I
So
think the opening
the
game will
match
be
is
in.
going to be in LA, and then the
I think it's going to be
final.
Mexico City for the first
Yeah.
game, and then the first game in, I guess,
In the US will
in
be
LA.
LA.
Yeah,
And then
yeah.
the first one in Canada is in Toronto, I think, right?
Probably, yeah.
Or is it Vancouver? I can't remember.
Yeah.
Yeah, but yes, but I just wanted to bring this up on for our audience on Good Guy Sports that the World Cup finals going to be in MetLife Stadium for the World Cup final. Just want to let everybody know, for our audience, especially Roberto, because he's a worldwide soccer fan. So I just want to just share with him your thoughts, and just want to just let you know, so that we all just plan ahead and just know what we have to talk about.
Yeah, it'll be exciting. It'll be the biggest World Cup that there's ever been, right? 3 countries, and I think, what is it, 48 teams now? So
Yep.
It'll be exciting. More matches than ever before.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We can do a full soccer breakdown here in a few weeks, Jack. I'm sure we'll have Roberto back on.
I would love to have him back on for a guest.
Thank you.
Right.
I would love to be back as well.
Great. Great to be with you, Roberto. Great for you to join Good Guy Sports. Thank you for joining us and being with you. I look forward to seeing you again as our guest. Love to have you back on our show.
Thank you, Jackson. It was great, and thank you, Blake, and
See you
Mike.
guys. Thanks.
Roberto, it's
See you,
great
Roberto.
meeting you. Looking forward to you being on again.
Thank you. Take care.
Thanks, everyone.
All
Have a
right.
good evening. Bye-bye.
Jackson, great show. Thanks.
Mike,
Great show.
Great to be with you. Great. Thank you very much. I'm Jackson Gerke, Good Guy Sports, signing off. We will talk to you next time on Good Guy Sports, and we will talk to you later. I'm Jackson Gerke, Good Guy Sports, signing off. We'll talk to you later. Have a great day, guys. Have a good night.
Bye.
See ya.
Bye.
Bye.